Welcome to Inside Auto Podcast, where we feature everyone and anyone you'd want to talk to in and out of the automotive industry.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the next episode of Inside Auto. We're so excited to have you. I'm super excited about our guests this week. But first, let me introduce us. And before we introduce today's guest, as you know, I'm Aaron Horowitz, host of Inside Auto podcast, where we interview top dealers, GMs, marketers, entrepreneurs, OEM folks, thought leaders in and out of the auto industry. My co-host Ilana is not here this week, but she'll be back next week. Before we introduce today's guest, this episode is sponsored by Auto Leadstar. Auto Leadstar platform is built on technology so powerful, it allows you to market, sell, and service cars as you would in the real world, at scale and online, making one-to-one matches between shoppers and inventory. Auto Leadstar is the only platform that is powered by scale, speed, and specificity to change the way dealers do marketing. Well, I'm someone who works with engineers. I work with computer engineers, computer science folks. Rarely do I have the pleasure of speaking to an engineer of kind of real world devices, but that's what we have here with us today in the form of Jamie Brewer. Jamie, welcome.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Oh, we're so happy to have you. Many of you may know this, but Jamie is the chief engineer of the Cadillac LYRIQ, and she has an amazing background. She worked on the Volt. She worked on other products within the Cadillac universe, and she's leading every single aspect of the LYRIQ's development. And as everyone knows, the LYRIQ is one of Cadillac's most exciting new releases and new product releases, and we're going to hear all about it from Jamie. But Jamie, before we get into the LYRIQ and Cadillac, tell me first how you ended up engineering cars for us, for those of us who drive them. I know you went to, you had an undergrad, you were in University of Michigan, right? Did you study engineering there?
I did. So, when I was growing up in high school, I was just very, I guess, interested to learn, I guess is a good way to put it. I always wanted to know how things worked. I always wanted to know why they worked that way. So I spent a lot of time taking household appliances apart and figuring them out and trying to put them back together. And it's sort of
that's a good thing. Like when my son completely takes apart something in our house,
that's awesome. You should totally encourage that.
Yeah, yes. I kind of had that in the back of my head. Oh, this could lead to a good engineering.
My parents, I took the vacuum cleaner apart. As long as I could put it back together, they were good with that. And I always
if anyone, any kids are listening to this, do not take apart your parents' vacuum cleaner. Find something else.
but it's that desire to learn and that desire to understand why. That really prompts a lot of young people to go into engineering, because that's what engineering is. It's really that critical thinking and that constant desire to learn new and interesting things and new technology. So, yeah, I ended up deciding to go to UVM.
Started as a kid and continued through high school.
And then through high school, and then went and decided to go to the University of Michigan and entered the mechanical engineering program there. Got my mechanical engineering degree through the U of M, loved it, loved the experience, loved everything that I learned there. And when I was the summer after my sophomore year at U of M, I actually had an opportunity to do an internship with General Motors. Met them at a career fair. We hit it off, had an opportunity to come in and do an internship. And that was back in the summer of 1998. And I've been with GM ever since. I did 2 internships and a co-op. Did the co-op during my last semester of my senior year at college, and then started working for GM directly after that. And I've had a number of different assignments and positions within GM over the last 20 plus years, and continue to learn every single day.
Yeah, I saw you were on the Volt back in the day.
I was actually the seat engineer. So I was designing seats.
That was kind of I feel like that car was a bit of a breakthrough. It was early. It was kind of it was pretty risky. So you engineered the seats.
I did. I engineered the seats on that vehicle. And it's funny because you think about it and you're like, well, that doesn't really have anything to do with the fact that it was an electric vehicle. But when you're working on an electric vehicle, every single part of the vehicle has to comprehend the fact that it's an electric vehicle. When you talk about mass savings, when you talk about your energy draw, when you look at things like heated seats and cooled seats and what type of mechatronics the seats have available to them and what type of current draw that takes. And what does that mean to the overall range of the vehicle? I mean, so even parts that you don't think of as electric vehicle parts, when you're engineering an electric vehicle, are really important to think about and consider as far as the overall impacts of the system.
So do you have like a roll-up model where you can kind of sum up all the draws on the electricity? And
Yes.
Because that's sounds like it must be critical.
It is. So it's really important that you look at not only the draw on the 400 volt system, right, our main battery source, the Ultim system, but you also really need to be focused on your draws on the 12 volt system as well, because draws on the 12 volt system can also have an impact on range. So yes, we have full roll-ups that we look at every feature. When and where is it turned on what driving cycle is it turned on? What does it draw, right? And what does that do to the overall range? And again, you got to look at both.
I want to come back to the LYRIQ, and I want to also understand kind of the generations and how it's evolved within GM. But before we get there, when I read your bio and I thought about the extent of the bet that GM or Cadillac, as a brand, make on every single vehicle, and I think of like all the components that are involved in pulling together a vehicle. I mean, the responsibility must be unbelievable as the lead engineer, isn't it? I mean, it's insane. And so I'm just curious, like, did the frog get boiled here, and you just kind of, it just feels very normal to you? Like, yeah, I have like 10,000 moving parts that I have to track, around the world of a global supply chain and processes being engineered where essentially, ultimately people's lives are going to be in my hands as they drive these vehicles, right? Or does that hit you frequently that you have that much responsibility on your plate?
I mean, it's definitely something that I do reflect on, but at the same time, I have an amazing team of engineers. There's thousands, plural, of very talented engineers that each have their own portion of this big, huge jigsaw puzzle, right? And part of my job is to make sure that I've got the right people with the right expertise in the right jobs, and then I have to trust them. And I learn from them every day, right? There is no way that a chief engineer can be an expert in chassis and in interiors and in vehicle crash and in infotainment, and it's just not feasible. And if you're expecting yourself to do that, then that's just that's not a realistic expectation. But what you do need to be able to do is understand who the right experts are within the company to own those various spaces, and then you need to be there for them to help guide, help make decisions, and help move the vehicle forward, and then bring it all together at the end of the day, all the different functions together into one cohesive vehicle. And that's really what you do as a chief engineer. So when you think about it the way you phrased it, yes, it can seem daunting, but at the same time, I honestly believe I've got the best team in the world working on this vehicle, and I trust them explicitly.
And I saw that, by the way, I totally identify with that. We're a much smaller operation, but it's the same principle. I mean, there's no way beyond a certain phase where you can understand everything that's happening or be involved in everything, and nor should you be. And in the end, it does come down to the team. I did notice that you'd been around the vehicle, meaning you had, I saw one of your specialties was bumpers, another, you'd done something with overall, I think it was, what was it? Garnish.
Yeah.
So it seems like you sort of, at various different stages of your career, own different pieces of the vehicle. Is there sort of a kind of a critical piece that one would have to have experience on to become a chief engineer, or could you have done chassis and wheels and not have done exteriors or interiors or what have you?
Yeah, I think so. If you talk to 20 different chief engineers at GM, there's 20 different career paths that they took, right? So there is not one specific path that gets you to be a chief engineer. But to your point, you do want a diversified background. You want to have seen multiple pieces and parts of the vehicle. So, I mean, I've done vehicle performance out at our Milford Proving Grounds. I do think that is a really critical role because you see how all the various subsystems interact, and you have a very customer focus on the vehicle, and you really look at the total vehicle from how would a customer react to the vehicle. So I do think that's important. And then you want to get some different subsystem experience. spent time in interiors, a lot of time in interiors. I've spent time in chassis, and I've spent time in body. And so you have the different views of the vehicle from different angles, and that really does help. That combined with an understanding of vehicle integration, I think is, those are some of the key experiences, I would say. But again, you talk to 20 different chief engineers, you'll see 20 different career paths.
Do you ever get to go out and go see the supply chain at its root?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so you'll go to, I don't know, Thailand to see something there, and then you'll fly to France to see something there. Is that part of your role?
Yeah, I would say, especially right now with the global pandemic, there has not been the international travel that there typically would have been. My role prior to this role, when I was a director for subsystem teams, and that's when I had Garnish, and I had overhead systems, and I had cargo systems, and basically interior trim. I would say I spent more time in that role, visiting the supply base, walking the assembly lines, looking at efficiency opportunities, because in that space, you own that subsystem and you own the strategy and the execution of that subsystem. In my space, as a chief engineer now, I do communicate a lot with the suppliers, but I don't spend as much time on the ground at the suppliers as my peers do that own the subsystems.
Got it. Very interesting. No, it's just fascinating to think about how these end products get built and how they all come together, and then come together at scale, which is, I think, also probably one of the more interesting parts of the job. It just seems like such a exciting and interesting role. Do you get a chance to? Let me ask generally about GM or OEMs, or more generally. Do you have a chance to build test models and have actual people drive them and see what the experience and the feedback is? Or does that all have to happen on computers? Could you actually produce a full LYRIQ and have someone drive it and then sit and watch them and see what happens?
All the time. Yeah. I mean, okay. I spend pretty much every Thursday at a minimum. I'm out at our Milford Proving Grounds driving our pre-production LYRIQs. Taking them through the ride and handling loop. We're taking them through the noise course, east-west straightaway. We're looking at acceleration performance off the line. We're doing all sorts of different tests. And so we have a whole group of people out at the Proving Grounds that just work on our pre-production properties, put them through their paces, iterate off of them to make sure that we've got, at the end of the day, all the right tuning elements together in one final package. So yeah, we do a lot in CAE or on the computer. Yeah, I would say the LYRIQ is probably one of the vehicles that has taken the most advantage of our computer-aided engineering because we've advanced a lot as a company from a CAE perspective. But that doesn't completely eliminate the need to get into a vehicle and get your hands on
for sure. And is it? I mean, let's talk about LYRIQ and Cadillac a little bit. So, from what I understand, the Ultim system is that a GM wide platform for EVs, or is that a Cadillac specific system?
No, it's a company wide. So Ultim is the platform basically for electric vehicle architectures, and it includes the battery systems, or what we call the RES, the remote energy storage systems. It also includes the drive units. Okay. And it includes our integrated power electronics. So, and it's scalable. The best thing about the Ultim system is it's very scalable and it's very modular. So you can piece it together to handle anything from a small Chevrolet all the way up to a Cadillac LYRIQ or even higher performance, or the Hummer, if you will. The electric Hummer that's launching later this year also operates off the Ultim platform.
And so is there any EV that happens in GM that's not on Ultim?
Ultim is starting with the Hummer. So if you look at our current electric vehicles, like the Bolt, for example, the Bolt is not off the Ultim system. It's off our previous generation of battery architecture.
Got it. And in this release, when you say third generation, what does that mean that it's a third generation vehicle?
Yeah, so it means it's an all new electric vehicle architecture. So when I say architecture, I'm talking about the underbody, the entire skateboard of the vehicle, right? The underbody, the chassis components. From the ground up, this was a blank piece of paper. So if you think about GM's history, right, we had EV1, Then we had the Bolt, which is off our second generation of EV architecture. The LYRIQ is the first program off our third generation of EV architecture. And that just means that we started with a clean sheet of paper and we designed the vehicle architecture specifically for the Ultim battery system. So it was an integrated design where we designed the Ultim and the vehicle architecture simultaneously from the ground up.
Got it. And in terms of its like role in Cadillac or what it's doing for the brand, kind of what is this, what is this moment when you guys are putting this product out and, it's so different? Like, what does it mean for the brand, would you say?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's honestly one of the most exciting parts of this role to me is what this product means for the brand. I think that this product is really an opportunity for us to continue this journey of redefining Cadillac. And I think there has been so much commitment on the part of everybody that's worked on this program because this is a very critical vehicle for the Cadillac brand. I really think that it's going to be a step function really in the customer perception and the, of the brand of Cadillac. And I think it's a big responsibility. And I think when you see this vehicle and you see the attention to detail, the design, the styling, which I'm sure you've seen images, but then you tie it into, we didn't cut any corners on technology. We didn't cut any corners on vehicle performance either. It's all three. It's design, technology, and performance all wrapped up in one. This is a very important vehicle for Cadillac.
That's cool. I have a picture. I have the 360 here. This is it. It looks like.
Yeah. Yeah, that's my baby.
Very nice looking car. Yeah. This is it. This is really your baby.
It's my baby. Yeah.
Oh, tell us about. Look at this grill. We're getting deep into.
Oh, I love the grill. I love the grill.
It's a pretty cool front of a vehicle. So tell us about when you're an engineer, when you're dreaming up this car and you look and you're thinking about the front of this car, tell us what goes in the mind of like a chief engineer when you think about the front of a car.
A lot of it is a partnership and a trust with the design studio. I mean, if you think about a grill, so an electric vehicle, right? Yeah. Not that you don't need any cooling, because you do need some cooling, right? We do have some power electronics and such in the front that need a certain amount of cooling, but you certainly don't need a full functioning grill like you would on an ICE vehicle, right? So what do you do with the front of the vehicle, right? And there was a lot of conversation around what do you do? Well, we decided to make it a design element in the vehicle. And if you see that grill there, what that actually is,
by the way, for folks who are listening on audio, we're looking at a 360 view of the new all-electric Cadillac LYRIQ, the 2023, which we'll let you know how to learn more about at the end. But I'm staring at this really striking looking grill. So, okay, walk us through it, Jamie.
Yeah, so it's actually a PC grill from a material perspective that we then have employed a new technology on where they're actually laser blading the back side of the grill. So it's a black grill, but then you laser blade those lines that you see. Yep. And then what we do is we backlight it. So the grill will actually light up from the back through those laser ablations. And then the nice thing about it is we can do different styles, right? We can have a different look between different trims just based on the laser ablation pattern that we program into the robots. The grill and the lighting element of the grill and the lighting element of the badge, which is also a lit element, that is a big part of the choreography that you'll notice as you walk up to the vehicle and the vehicle greets you and goes through a choreography sequence. The lighting in the grill and the badge, along with our slimline LED headlamps that you see here, that entire front end is really the dramatic piece of the vehicle as you walk up and it greets you.
And is there a light down here that I see, or is that just sort of part of this picture?
No, that's just a reflection. Yeah.
A reflection. Okay. Yeah. And then tell me for a minute in terms of if I jump inside here, again, we're deep in the weeds here with Car Talk. For those who are listening, we're now looking at the interior. We're about to load up the interior of the LYRIQ here. What's like one thing that really stands out inside that you just think is really special?
Well, obviously the 33-inch diagonal advanced LED screen. I mean, that thing is just amazing, right? That is just it's gonna be the first in the industry. What you're gonna see from a color perspective, from a pixel density perspective. I mean, it's just the graphics and the detail that you're going to see is going to be absolutely incredible. But when you go past that and you look at just simple things like, look at the center console and how it's kind of floating in space and how you have that nice big open area underneath it. You know, because we don't have to manage a transmission, right? You don't have that tunnel area going through the center of the vehicle now. You have that big, beautiful open space that we can do so much with, both from a design perspective, but also from a storage perspective. It's those little things. We took advantage of the fact that it's a brand new architecture to not allow any of that normal space that we don't have in a nice vehicle to go to waste, right?
And so the platform, meaning when we talk about that Ultim platform, essentially what you're referring to is the battery and the drive elements underneath, right? That's the Ultim. Everything above that is the LYRIQ in every way, meaning it's the next EV that you guys do might be a totally different structure on top, and it's the same platform.
That's correct. Yeah. So really the underbody of the vehicle and what we would call the skateboard, we will build several different top hats on top of that for different architectures, but we will take advantage of the Ultim platform and scale it either by the number of modules that we put in it, or if we use a rear drive unit, if we use a front drive unit, if we do 2 drive units. Those are all the different scaling options that we have available to us now with the Ultim.
Got it. It looks fantastic, and it's awesome to talk to like the artist when you talk about a piece of art. So we could tell from your passion and kind of the authority just from this conversation that you bring to talk about this car that it's going to have a great reaction, I'm sure, in the market based on that.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Those who are listening, go check it out. So Jamie, before we kind of break, tell me a bit about, I guess, hearing you speak about your passion for figuring things out, the curiosity that you have, your journey in automotive. It is a moment to ask, like, if you're thinking about the engineers of the future, right? People who right now are maybe tearing apart their parents' vacuum and reassembling it halfway, and are heading out thinking of a career. What's going to be different for them than maybe it was for you? And kind of what are those maybe forward-looking or core skills that you would, in addition to what you think might be different for them, what do you recommend people kind of think about, like 1 or 2 pieces of advice for folks coming up?
Yeah, I mean, I think the number one piece of advice, if you're looking at getting into a career in engineering, whether it be mechanical engineering, which is my background, or obviously there's a lot of opportunity nowadays for software engineering, computer science, those sorts of fields as well. The first and most important piece of advice, I think, is just stay curious. If you want to be an engineer, you have to have that curiosity ingrained in you, right? You have to want to learn. Because going through engineering school, that's the very beginning of your journey of learning. Your entire career is learning, and you have to have an innate desire to learn to really be a very good engineer. So that would be the first thing. And the second thing I would say, look hard at, even if you have a mechanical tendency, and mechanical engineering is still an incredibly important field to get into, but don't be afraid of digging into the software side as well, and the electrical space as well, because more and more, obviously, the world is being run through electromechanics, I would say. So don't be afraid to expand your horizon a little bit and dig in deeper into those areas as well.
Wonderful. I love it. And when you were in college, did you have any like humanities side, or were you all science and math the whole way through? Michigan is such a great university. Like, did you take advantage? I will say I took the required liberal arts courses, but my focus was certainly on getting as many math and science courses in before I graduated as possible. Yeah, no, I hear that. All right, great. Well, this was really a pleasure. It was a wonderful opportunity for us to learn about you, learn about what's coming out soon for GM and Cadillac. We're excited to maybe have you back at some point, and we could talk
Absolutely.
about evolution, what you're seeing, and maybe kind of what you learn as a product goes to market. So thank you, Jamie Brewer, who is the chief engineer for the Cadillac LYRIQ. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a lot of fun.
All right, listeners, Ilana's not here, so I will do my best on this. You can find us on Spotify, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. Please do subscribe. Don't forget to subscribe. Tell your friends about it. Inside Auto. And we always love to hear from you. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for listening to Inside Auto Podcast. Check out our other episodes with top entrepreneurs and industry leaders.